Small town America, the idyllic life where things are simple, where the all-American boy falls in love with the girl next door, where every day is a Norman Rockwell painting. Only the all-American boy runs a construction company. The girl next door has a serial killer for a father. The high school seniors distribute rum and operate nightclubs when they're not being murdered. It's just another day in the life of a little town called Riverdale.
Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
Welcome to another episode of Riverdale. This is the 11th episode of Season 4 called Quiz Show, and as per usual, the showrunners have named the episode after another movie. This particular movie was about an incident that happened several decades back on a television quiz show where the contestant was provided by the producers with the answers to the questions ahead of time. It's all very interesting and very sordid, and you might want to Google it. It's worth a read. Anyhow, Betty has a mad-on against Stonewall Prep after Stonewall has basically kicked the ass of Riverdale on the football field. Now they do this by playing dirty and by injuring players ahead of the game, and she thinks that she can take it to the team on the academic field. She is going to put together a team of quizzers, and they're going to beat Stonewall Prep there. Now Riverdale has never competed in this quiz show, and quite frankly that's astonishing, seeing as how the quiz show is held in Riverdale, and one wonders who was competing against Stonewall Prep in the past. There aren't that many schools left in a very small town, especially since Southside High was closed a couple of episodes back. If they'd have said this was a district thing or a regional thing, I would have understood that. I participated in these things myself in high school. Anyhow, despite all of Betty's Adderall-fueled studying, her mother Alice thinks that she needs an edge. After all, Betty has been refused entry to Yale, despite her 4.0 average, because her father was a serial killer. Now that doesn't seem fair, but there's a scout in the audience, and if Betty performs well tonight, she may get a second chance to Yale. And Alice isn't going to let that go to waste. So she gives Betty a present. She gives her the answers to the questions. Whether or not Betty uses them is something you're going to have to watch the show to find out. Over at the Andrews household, Archie is still getting used to his Uncle Frank appearing out of nowhere, and has decided to give his derelict uncle a job at Andrews Construction. Yes, Archie is a senior in high school, and he is running a construction business as well as a community center. Now, he doesn't give Frank just any job. He gives him the foreman position. That would be Tom Keller's old job, so Tom's got a demotion. He's not too happy about that. Tom, being the former sheriff, means he knows all about Frank's sordid history, and that is going to get Frank watched very closely. But when Frank ends up taking a couple of $100 out of petty cash, Tom has had enough, and he quits. Archie's not crazy about this either, and when he finds out that Frank took the money to gamble on a horse race so that he could come up with the money to pay the bonuses for the crew that hasn't been getting paid for the last few months, well, let's say all's well that ends well, but it could be the beginning of the end. Veronica and Cheryl have a new business also. It seems that Le Bon Nuit can no longer sell liquor. Surprise, surprise, you're high school seniors. So they are going to sell rum. Wait, rum is still liquor. But they're not going to just sell the drinks. They're going to manufacture rum. Veronica wants to take it to her father, who has opened up his own rum business, by competing against him on the field of business. Now, Hiram has already served Veronica with a cease and desist once because the rum recipe she was using was scientifically too close to the one he had patented. One would think the only cease and desist Veronica and Cheryl would need is, you are underage in this state, you cannot sell alcohol. But they're cooking it up anyway, and they're selling it in bottles, which means they're buying bottles wholesale from somebody. It also means they have a distillery somewhere presumably manned by a staff of people, and are creating a sort of rum that does not need to age. But hey, this is Riverdale, and it's comic book physics. Hiram shows up at Le Bon Nuit and takes a baseball bat to all the bottles of rum they have there. He can do this. He's the sheriff. It's a raid. I'm sorry, I said sheriff. He's the mayor, and it's a raid. So he's in charge. But Cheryl has an idea. Why don't they just sell the rum out of her mother's old bordello? Ah, I love small town wholesomeness. Speaking of wholesomeness, they're not supposed to be any more wholesome than Kevin Keller, at least not in the comic books. I mean, Kevin had to be made super wholesome because he's the first gay character in the Archie comics world. Now, in the Riverdale series, Kevin Keller pretty much does nothing but hook up with strangers. He's been seen sneaking into Fox Forest several times just for one-night stands and getting a little strange. Now, he's had a relationship in the past with Fangs Fogarty, but that kind of went south when they both got brainwashed in a cult together and beat each other up. Fangs is trying to get back with Kevin at Pop Tate's, but Kevin already has a date. A stranger named Terry, who shows up and says, "Do you want to go back to my hotel room?" And Kevin's like, "Sure." Well, things get a little strange in the hotel, and Kevin finds himself in a, let's say, ticklish situation. You see, Terry is named after this person, Terry DeSisto. Terry DeSisto was the queen of Spam at one point. But Terry DeSisto did not exist. Terry DeSisto was actually this guy, Dave DAmato. And he was using the internet to recruit college boys to be tickled. There's a whole movie about it. Again, hit the Googles. We're all building up to Jughead's murder soon enough. But is that going to be real, or is that going to be ruse? We'll just have to tune in next week and see. Hi, thanks for stopping by for another Critical Blast video. The internet is a big place, and we know there are lots of other places you could be other than here, and we appreciate you being here immensely. If you enjoyed this kind of content, we hope you'll return for more. If you click the subscribe button, you'll get a little notification of when we produce new video content. If you would like to help the channel out, there are many ways to do so. Just visiting our main hub, criticalblast.com, will do wonders. But if you're more of a show me the merchandise type of person, there are links in the description of this video to our t-shirt shop, as well as links to Amazon for the books we publish under the Critical Blast Publishing imprint, including the urban fantasy anthology Gods and Services and the YA superhero novel Bulletproof by Stephen J. Mitchell. Thanks again for visiting this video. We hope you had a blast.